Hi, Danielle, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Okay. Yeah, you sound great. Probably be okay if you spoke just a little bit louder.
Okay, I think there's a little lag in the speed, so I guess we'll have to just get used to that. Okay.
Danielle?
No, she can't. Try now.
Okay, can you hear us now, Danielle?
Yeah.
Okay, that was weird.
How's
We
my
heard
volume?
ourselves talking to you.
YouTube,
Get YouTube off.
it's off. Sorry.
Wow, Jimmy went from rags to riches.
Ryan, where are you? I can't see you.
Nice, Jimmy. Me too.
There you are. Oh my God.
I kind of like this now.
Oh, we should do that up on the stand too.
That's
Just get there early.
You guys know Eric Ludlow, Judge
Uh-huh.
Ludlow.
Yep.
He always wears basketball shorts under his robes.
Nice. I'll be back in just a minute.
Hi, Michelle. Hi, Michelle.
James,
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear us okay?
Michelle, can you hear us?
She's calling me right now. Oh, it's Kyle.
Oh, there she is.
Hey, Kyle.
I can see her.
Yeah.
James, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hi, Michelle.
Because I can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Michelle?
Picture color, Sean. Danielle, is that toilet paper hanging in that area?
Back here.
Yep.
That's called Tool, but you could use it for toilet paper if you got desperate.
Better be hiding that.
You all ready for this?
Yep.
All right.
We can hear Michelle. She hear us now?
I don't know. Michelle, can you hear us?
Yes.
Hey. How you feeling, Michelle?
Fabulous.
Okay. Everybody else feeling well? I know we're on the record, so,
Feeling
Good.
good.
okay. Tim Martin, we're glad to have you here. We're going to unmute you in just a minute. See if I can.
Sound when it's time.
There we go. I just unmuted you, so we're close. Jimmy Hughes is there. Danielle, Brian, Greg. Of course, Adam, Sherlane. It's great. Who hasn't used Zoom before? You've all used it?
Mhm.
Okay.
You standing up the whole meeting, Adam?
Yeah, this is my life.
I just started recording.
Okay. There's Jimmy Hughes.
Ready?
We are ready. Okay. Okay.
Yay, I'm unmuted. Hello.
Been working on that for a while, Greg?
I have. Feels good to speak.
Sorry, Greg, I don't know why you dropped that right to do that, but you can mute and unmute yourself now.
Oh, great. Okay. Thank you.
And that's how it should work for all the council and staff, I believe. Is that right, James?
That's correct.
It is going to be best, council, if you do mute yourselves, other than when you want to say something, but I do want you to say something just as you would in any council meeting. So, chime in, ask questions just as normal. Okay?
You don't want to hear my puppy barking?
I don't mind. I got to come see that puppy. Cooper?
It's adorable.
Yeah.
Cooper.
Yeah.
Super cute puppy, Michelle.
Super cute Cooper.
Yeah.
Adam, it's 4:59. Do you have any problem if we start our meeting?
Well, if we drag this out for 30 seconds more,
Just
we
keep
might
talking. Yeah, keep talking.
get there.
Yeah.
We're pretty close. Any particular instructions you wanted to give the group right now? We could probably
Well,
start.
I have some, and so, but I'll just wait just in case anyone from the public joins us here in the next minute or two.
Make sure you mention the camera adds 10 pounds. For me.
It's all on how you hold your head. Stay back a little. Maybe.
Yeah, I think I've got 5 cameras on me.
Yeah, I thought
Nice.
you were saying that the COVID-19 was the 19 pounds everybody's gaining in quarantine,
For
right?
sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, it is now 5:00 p.m. on what I think is March, what is it, 28th?
26th.
26. I just added 2 days. March 26, 2020. This is a new thing for us here in St. George. We're having our first Zoom City Council meeting. This is being broadcast live also on YouTube, so people can participate on Zoom, and that link was published with our advertisement of this meeting. So this is a fully electronic format with multiple anchor sites. Essentially, each one of us kind of represents an anchor site, I think, is the way we would say it. We do have one anchor site here at City Hall, plus a waiting room. So we will not be in violation of the state policy to keep our groups in numbers of less than 10. So if people do want to be here, they can participate live in the city council chambers where Sean Guzman is taking care of things. Also, I believe, Adam, if this is correct, but I believe if the staff that's presenting, will they be doing that from the city council chambers?
Not necessarily. We do have some that are even at their homes today. So
Excellent.
each item will be a little different.
Excellent. Council and members of the public, any applicants that might be on with us today, we appreciate your patience as we do this meeting today. It's possible we could have a few glitches. We may be a little slower than normal just because of the need to make sure we're listening to each other and finish our thoughts before we speak or speak over the top of someone. Just a little bit trickier that way, but I think we'll get the hang of it. So I'm going to, with that, I have some more instructions for all that may be participating today, but I'm going to get started now by starting with an invocation by Tim Martin, who is we're going to say he's the executive secretary of the St. George Interfaith Council, but he's really the soul of the Interfaith Council. So he is going to, on I think a very appropriate day, Tim, he's going to offer an invocation. And then I have a flag behind me. I see that Brian has one too. I'll lead us all in the Pledge of Allegiance. Tim.
Please join me in prayer. Our Father in heaven, we're so thankful this day that we were able to gather as our city leaders in this safe environment, in this environment that allows us to speak freely and not worry about this coronavirus that is now plaguing our country and our community. We're thankful for the technology that allows this to happen. We're thankful for the devotion of those in the city that are striving so hard to continue to do their duties in face of this challenge that we all are facing. We're mindful this day, Father, of those who are in need or suffering from the virus or other physical problems. We pray that blessing to be upon them. We pray for a blessing upon those leaders of business and those who are out of work right now as we all struggle through this time of toughness. We pray that we might feel thy hand and know that there are those who are working to make life easier for us. We're thankful for those who have done so much already to bless our lives, to ease the economic pain, to allow us to do the things that need to be done. Now we ask thy blessing to be upon us, that we might feel good about the efforts that are going forward in the city of St. George, that we might feel thy hand of inspiration, we might feel the uplift that thou hast provided through those who are working to relieve our struggles and our misery. And we ask these blessings in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Tim. If we could all rise wherever we are, and let's, best we can, salute the flag, and we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
to the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's a little different, folks. Wish we could all be together, but this is a good second place way to do it. So thank you again, Tim. Appreciate you being on. I think he's maybe dropped off now. Couple more things, kind of some rules of the meeting here. First of all, just to mention to everyone, all who join the Zoom conference meeting today are muted upon entering the meeting. So you might please, other than council and staff that are participating, you might turn off your video so that it preserves bandwidth and should help us to have fewer glitches with this. Again, council, I want you to keep your video on and you can unmute yourself whenever you want. The public and applicants and so forth that are part of this meeting will be unmuted if there's an appropriate time that they would be needing to speak. We don't have any scheduled public hearings for tonight, as you can see, council. So there really shouldn't be much of a need for the general public to be speaking today, but I reserve the right to call on someone if we so choose and see that maybe they ought to be able to speak to something. Certainly, if there's an applicant that wishes to speak, they can do that. And the way that they can let us know they'd like to do that is down to the chat box, the chat feature. And they would just need to say they would like to speak on a particular item and tell us that number that's on the agenda, and then tell us your full name. Sometimes your name doesn't appear, or it might be in a handle versus a name. And so we need to know your full name so that we have that as part of the record. And then I will call on you if it's deemed appropriate. Let's see. Also, if you want to speak, say whether you are the applicant or a representative of the applicant, and again, what your full legal name is. If I kind of mentioned this before, but whoever may be speaking, if you'll just make sure each of us as we are listening, if we want to say something, wait till the speaker is finished. Obviously, it just doesn't work very well on this format if you're trying to talk over each other. I also want to mention, council, that just to make sure we're perfectly clear on our votes today, I'll be asking for roll call votes with every agenda item. Does that make sense? Okay. I think we're ready, Adam, to go to the agenda. Have there been any changes? I know there was an addendum, but have there been any changes to the agenda?
No, other than the addendum, everything is as has been presented to you.
Thank you. Council, do you have any initial questions about the agenda before we start?
No.
Okay. All right, then we will start. The first thing we have, I'll just start it. We have, let's see, are we going to the very first item we're going to do tonight is what really enables us to do this. And that is, we're considering the approval of an ordinance amending the city code to clarify provisions regarding electronic open and public meetings of the city council. Sean, are you doing this one?
Yes, Mayor, I'll be doing this one.
Please proceed.
Okay, Council, as you're aware, the governor issued an emergency order that allowed the council meetings to proceed, notwithstanding the current law, to proceed with these electronic meetings. We feel like our current ordinance allows us to do that because it references the Open and Public Meetings Act and says that we will follow those guidelines. But just to be absolutely clear, we're changing our ordinance to put the provisions of the electronic meetings in the section that governs the Planning Commission and the City Council. Previous to this, the Planning Commission did not have the option to do that under our ordinance. So we're adding the Planning Commission on right now. Now, just be aware that our ordinance that we're adopting tonight obviously is more restrictive than the governor's order right now. But once his order comes off, then these restrictions will go back in place. The current state law will be the state law that controls this. So we thought that it's just prudent now to just go ahead and take this as the first item of business on this electronic meeting today.
Very good. Any questions, council? So Sean, just for a little clarification, after this emergency period of time is expired, if you will, we wouldn't be able to do it in quite this same format.
We would have to have a quorum present at our anchor location. Right now, we don't have to have a quorum present, and we could have multiple anchor locations. We've chosen just to have one here at City Hall. But in the future, we will only be able to have it at one anchor location with a quorum present.
Very good. Any other comments or questions from the council? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion to approve this ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy Hughes, second by Brian Smethurst, right, Brian? Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, those in favor, gosh, how do I do this? I'm going to call on you. Danielle Larkin?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Jimmy?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Adam, you want to take us through the rest of the agenda?
Let's do it. Item number 2 is a consent calendar. We've got some housekeeping items on here, a number of bid awards, one reconsideration of a bid award in light of current economic situation. Everything that we've got on here, we've reviewed. Some of these items that are being awarded, for example, we have some previous commitments to other agencies that we need to maintain, but we're comfortable with the expenditures that are represented here, and everything's been reviewed. Unless you'd like to pull any of these off for individual discussion, then we would recommend approval as is.
Council, any questions, anything you'd like to pull out of the consent calendar for further discussion? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar as given to us. Does that also include the one item on the addendum, Adam? The Woodland Estates Townhomes, 1A.
I believe it would, maybe in the motion, reference the consent calendar, including the item on the addendum.
Thank you. Council?
Motion to approve the consent calendar with the addendum item.
I'll second that.
Okay, the motion was made by Michelle. Was that second by Greg?
Sure.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, those in favor, starting with Jimmy this time. Jimmy?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item number 3 is for a zone change, and we're going to have Dan make this presentation to us. And Dan, are you on?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
There we go. Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. As you may recall, we had an application for a zone change from open space to the PDR by an applicant at the Bloomington golf course. They requested that they be tabled to last week's meeting. Of course, that turned into this week's meeting. They're asking for a little bit more time to put together some information for you to present at next week's meeting. So they're asking that this item be tabled again to the April
2 weeks.
to the April 2nd meeting. So that's next week's meeting.
We're off a week because, you know, we canceled the one last week. So they're going to be ready for next week, Dan?
That's right.
Okay, council, any discussion? Otherwise, I'd be ready for a motion to table this item until Thursday, April 2nd.
I'll make a motion that we table the item until April 2nd.
Second.
Motion was made by Greg. Was that a second by you, Brian? Sorry.
Yes, sir. Yes, Mayor.
Seconded by Brian Smethurst. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, those in favor, starting with Danielle this time.
Aye.
Michelle,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
and Jimmy.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Council, we're going to have Ray present items 4 and 5, and then we'll be back to Dan for item number 6.
Item number 4 is consider approval of an ordinance changing zoning from R110 residential to open space on approximately 3.5 acres. And this is generally located west of Mall Drive, near where the Fall Event Center was. And as you can see on the screen, the area that is outlined is city-owned property. This is a city-initiated zone change. And again, it's a request to take the wash area and the trail and to change it from single-family residential into open space zone. Basically, it's a request, again, the city has initiated to do a cleanup and would like to try to do more of these in the future for other wash areas that are similar. And that is it.
Questions, council, on this for Ray? Did I hear someone talking?
I'll make a motion to approve the zone change from R110 to open space.
Second.
Okay, there was a motion by Michelle and a second by Jimmy. Any discussion on that? All right, seeing none. Those in favor, starting with Danielle,
Aye.
Michelle,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
and Jimmy.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Next item is item number 5. And item
Mayor?
number 5.
Oh.
Yes, hang on a second, Ray. Danielle?
When they're bringing up these visuals, at least on my end, it's making our connection a lot choppier. So I guess maybe it would work if they take the visuals down before we do our motion and our vote, because I couldn't hear.
Good point. And for any discussion as well. So let's take note of that, staff. We'll want to work on that for the next time. But yeah, after you've done your presentation, let's take that screen away so that we can have discussion and hear the motion.
Okay.
Thank you, Danielle.
All right, council, number 5 is consider approval of an ordinance for a zone change in the planned development commercial zone to allow development of a Maverick C-store at Dixie Drive and 1600 South. And on the screen is showing a blue arrow pointing to a triangular shaped piece of property. And that is the lot. And you can see it's right next to the green area, which is the city's cemetery. I'm going to try to click through here. And I'm sorry, I'm having trouble. I know that you have it in your packet, the entire presentation.
There we go.
Okay, good, thank you. So up in the left-hand corner shows the site plan. The kind of square-shaped orange is the proposed new Maverick building. And then the long orange area shows the gas station for it. You can see conceptual landscaping. You can see the driveways for entering and circulation. Basically, this is a Maverick, and the big gray area to the right is a different future possible phase. This would be phase one, just the Maverick store where you see the parking shown and the buildings. But what you do see, because it's all one property on the right side, is a long landscape area. Per the ordinance, whenever you have a commercial zone against residential, you have to buffer it, shield it, have a 6-foot block wall, and then trees and other plantings to, again, separate the residential. And that's what's shown here. And Maverick is aware of that, and they were very cooperative in saying that they would install that now. It's possible another development might come in the future for that gray area, but that is not on as a presentation for you tonight. You should be able to see on the same graphic here showing conceptually what the building looks like. And the majority of it is about 19 feet high. It's just single story. You do have that decorative front that's about 29 feet. You can see down the bottom left-hand corner. But I assume you're all very familiar with the product and what you've seen at other places in the city. I'm going to try to click here to the next screen. And this is just showing the canopy. We've talked with the developer, and the Planning Commission does recommend this project in the proposed conditions. You probably already noticed that one of them has to do with lighting, from the city's experience with lighting under other canopies, that we want to make sure that it's recessed. They don't go over a 1-foot candle at property line. And I believe they don't go over 15 feet per our ordinance for lighting under this. So those are things staff will be looking at. I'm going to go to the next slide. And that just shows the materials board. And then also part of the project is the signage that they'd like to get for a tall monument sign. I believe the height normally is 10, they're asking for 15. They can ask for that with the plan development commercial zone request. And council will say if they support that, they still would have to come in and do a sign permit and submit all of the drawings and all the details and site, show exactly where it's at. This presentation's been scaled down to just 4 slides. You have more detail in your packet, but that basically is the presentation, and staff's ready to answer questions.
Okay, let's test this a little bit. Any comments or questions, council? We know right where this is, of course.
Yeah, I guess my concern is, so we're for sure going to get a 6-foot wall, at least a 6-foot wall there against the cemetery.
Correct.
Because yeah, we know where the overflow of some of these markets go, and it's some of the kids like to hang around out there, and not just kids, but that's just kind of a place we want to kind of keep a little bit quiet.
I'll just say it as kindly as I can. I don't love that this is one of the entrances to our cemetery. It's going to be a high traffic. I mean, obviously it's a gas station, high traffic. I know that's probably not, doesn't matter, but I just don't love this. But what do you do? What are the rules? What are the guidelines on alcohol sales next to a park? Any, Sean?
Well, it'll just have the beer sales. So it's per city ordinance. So we don't count our cemetery as a park per se. We haven't identified it as a park. And I think we're getting a little reverb here. I don't know why.
We are.
There were a couple of other points, Mayor. One is, and I may not have caught it, and Ray may have mentioned it, but I believe they asked for a taller monument sign. Then there's also the colors, the signage, and the lighting. All of those things, because this is a PD, you're able to look at those and say, we think the color should be muted a little bit. The lighting should be a little different along the perimeter where it's next to the cemetery. And then, of course, the signage and whether or not, and what the height and what type of signage would be allowed. So all of those things are things that you can consider right now.
I think that Ray said that he'd be coming back for the signage. Was that correct? Or is this it? He showed it, but he said they'd have to come back for the sign permit.
If I can comment, they are asking for the height for the monument sign. And that's part of the zone change amendment tonight, but they will have to come back to do an actual sign permit.
And Mayor, that's what I'm saying is that so you're considering how tall that will be tonight. So you'll want to consider that. Might be hard for you to judge with Jimmy's concerns on how tall you're willing to go on the monument sign if you don't know what it looks like. And then there's the canopy lighting. There's the that type of thing. So, and the canopy signage, I should say, you remember with Buffalo Wild Wings, for example, we asked them to mute down the colors a little bit on that. So there's those things that you can do. And John may want to comment on that, but yeah, that's why I brought up the sign, because the height is probably the most important part, and you may want to see what it looks like before you approve that, the height of the sign.
Remind us what the height is that they're asking for.
They're requesting for 15 feet, and the ordinance allows for 10 feet. So they're requesting additional 5 feet of height for the signage.
See, I think if anything, we'd be wanting to go with a monument rather than a pylon kind of sign here and have it be lower rather than higher, especially to Jimmy's point. This is a sensitive area, so I would think we might be wise if we can, Sean, to say we'd like to see a proposal on the specific sign before we approve anything in terms of the height. Would that be okay? Is that what I'm getting from you, Sean?
That's what one of the points I wanted to make, Mayor, was that since given the concerns that were expressed about the proximity to the cemetery, you may want to give direction and also keep that sign to the 10 feet. And then, of course, there's the graphics on the canopies and other things that were presented tonight. I'm not sure that those are exactly what they want to do. I'm not clear on that. But if you have concerns about how those are, then you need to talk about those tonight and give some direction to staff.
So the sign that you're seeing is the sign that they're requesting. That could be reduced to meet ordinance and be 10 feet, but that is the sign that they're requesting. The canopy also is the canopy that they are requesting, which is the red color. And so I think it'd be more than appropriate to look at the color of that canopy, especially, and also the height of the sign.
So a question I have, John, is if we were to say 10 feet for the sign, does that mean that the sign square footage remains the same and they just take off that base with the stone, or are they going to reduce the square footage of the sign?
I think that would be a question for the applicant. I don't know scale wise if that would all just proportionally scale down to 10 feet or not. I think we'd want that stone base on there just for aesthetic. And so I would assume they would scale everything down proportionally to 10 feet. But that'd be
and that's and Mayor and Council, that's something that you could include in your motion if that's what you want to do. So,
may I ask about the landscaping? It's described as increased evergreen trees to the satisfaction of staff. I don't know what that means exactly. Does that mean we're trying to make a buffered evergreen wall?
Yes. So what they're proposing is to create a vegetation wall of evergreens. That's what they are proposing, is to increase the amount of trees along that side to help mitigate the Maverick against the cemetery. That is their proposal.
To make it denser.
And John, my other question is, I noticed Ray said he thought the lighting underneath the canopy was 15, but it's actually described in here as 25-foot candles. But, you know, can we reasonably ask them to take it down to 10 or 15, since this is in a pretty sacred area? And will their lighting be sufficient at 10 or 15-foot candles instead of 25?
The code is 25, but and Sean, you can correct me, I think it's more than appropriate for the council to put additional regulations on it to reduce the foot candles. I think that reducing it by 10 and go 15, I still think that would provide enough lighting for the canopy.
Okay.
I agree with John.
Mayor, is the police chief on by chance?
The chief is here and we can go get him. He's in the lobby.
My question is, and my concern, I guess, is
He's coming in right now, so we may need to tell him what we're talking about, Mayor. He's sitting right here with me. Go ahead and say hello, Chief, and the camera will go to you.
Hello.
Or maybe it won't.
So can you kind of fill him into where we're at on this picture, Sean?
So right here, we have a proposed Maverick. It's in a PD zone, so we have a lot more control, the council does, on what they approve there. It's right on Dixie Drive at 1600 South on the corner right by the cemetery. So it borders the cemetery.
Okay.
So my question is, Chief, homeless down in that area, or are there people down by the river close to that area? Do we see much of that?
To my knowledge, no. It seems like we have more of an issue along the Virgin River, but as far as the Santa Clara drainage goes, it's fairly narrow and open, and there's enough foot traffic up and down that bike path that we usually don't have any issues. And when people see that type of activity, we're usually keeping pretty close tabs. So most of our homelessness is along the Virgin River.
Okay. And my only concern with that whole thing was if we lower the lighting in that whole area, and we had that issues over there, we would probably attract more people that just want to hang out down there, and will not be able to see what's going on in that area. So I think that's my only concern is attracting people that don't, and I don't want to say this in any, I'm not saying this in any bad way, but we kind of, if they congregate, people like to congregate where there's not a lot of lighting. And I just don't want to attract them.
So John, what is our lighting at Terrible Herbst in Bloomington or Sun River?
I'm going to throw that one to John.
Good, because that's
remembers. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said Sean, so I'm glad you asked John.
Real quick, I think if maybe they would take the graphics down, it wouldn't be so choppy.
Yeah, let's try it. It's gotten worse.
I'm not sure what Terrible Herbst is, but if you look at the Harmon's gas station, the new fuel station they added, that fuel station is about 25.
All right.
I know we've taken some of them down to 15 in the past, and it's still sufficient lighting.
I have a totally different question.
Could I
have
the chief respond on the?
Hang on just a second. Michelle, wait just a minute.
The chief had one more comment on the lighting.
Okay.
Go ahead, Chief, loudly.
So just thinking while you guys are having the discussion, if we think about the Maverick over on Hilton Drive, the one that's been there for several years, that's actually a pretty dark area, and we've never really had a loitering issue at that one. Now we do have people show up there, and sometimes in vehicles they'll hang out for a little bit of time, but we seem to have more of a loitering issue at the Thousand East Boulevard, the South Bluff one, but that Hilton one, we don't see a lot of loitering, and so I don't know if that might be an indication of what we would see over on Dixie Drive or not. The lighting at that Hilton one, frankly, is not very good either.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Michelle?
I just wanted to know how many cemeteries have a Maverick next door. I'm not excited about this at all.
I don't know that we have a lot of choice with that. Sean can speak to that in terms of this is PD commercial, but I don't disagree. I certainly wish there were maybe more conducive use. But that's why for me, I'm kind of along the lines of minimizing the lighting in this case. It's still plenty light at that level 15 from what I've seen. I've checked out some up north before. So I don't know. I think that might be one way to minimize it. It is nice that it's a little farther away from the wall. Although again, we don't know what the next use might be along the wall. I don't know.
I just take myself on an imaginary drive right along that road, and you go by the park, the All Abilities Park, the cemetery, obviously that property that's been purchased to add on to the cemetery, and you have those nice commercial buildings. It all fits so good with a cemetery, and then this just doesn't fit. I mean, I get it, and maybe there's nothing we can do, but it just, to me, and I'm the one that likes to say yes on as much as we can, and it's their property and yada yada, but it just to me, it totally ruins the cemetery vibe in my mind. But I guess it's because I'm in the business too, so maybe I'm a little.
No, Jimmy, I think that's totally appropriate. I'm not sure that the new council members know, I'm going to say it. We would like to have purchased this property and tried to.
Yeah.
And so it does hurt a little bit that frankly anything is going here for me personally.
Right. And I'll just be very clear that my no vote is not in no way because we're able to purchase the property. I just feel like it's not conducive. I mean, if we're looking at as we plan our city and do things, these are one of those things that the public will look at and say it's all about the buck, because that doesn't fit there. And maybe it's a great place for a Maverick, where isn't? I mean, look around town, but
Right.
this is just one I don't like. I don't know how else to say it.
Could we have a little bit of comment from Sean on this? This is a little
Yes,
bit.
and I'll ask. Yes, Mayor, and I asked John also to join in. It's currently, my understanding, it's currently zone PD, which means that you have some latitude to say there are some uses you just don't think are in harmony with that location. So you do have latitude there to decide what uses would go in there. I also think that you have some latitude to say, we don't think the setback, because of the adjoining use, the setback is wide enough. For example, where that strip of trees, I know the graphic isn't up there, but I know you all remember it, where the strip of trees is alongside the border line there. They have that gray area there that they say they currently aren't going to use. Perhaps that area there is part of their landscaped area. The wall is pulled back and they just don't use that for any other buildings or any other uses in there. There are a number of things, and I ask that you can consider when looking at this site. And also too, you can go back to the applicant if you wish to say, we don't like the plan as we see it. So let's talk if you feel like there's some discussion to be had along those lines. And I'll throw it to John Willis now to add his comments.
Yeah, and I would agree with that also. I'm looking at the use table, and the use table does specifically say convenience store, but there's really no mention of a gas pump or gas station. And so I think there is a little bit of a ability to look at that use real specifically. And I do think that, you know, you can increase that setback against the cemetery, and or not allow an increased landscape buffer in that gray area to help mitigate, and maybe even a berm to help mitigate the impacts from the cemetery to the Maverick stores. So I think there's a lot of flexibility the council has.
So I typed this to you guys. But I guess it didn't go to everybody. But I really think that, you know, in order to make this not problematic for the cemetery, you know, if we just really increase the density of the landscape, and I wouldn't have a problem with saying, you know, this can be for a gas station in that location. There's going to be a gas station. It's already zoned for a gas station, across the street in so think about, and the increased landscape would be great.
Would you try to repeat the last bit, Danielle? We kind of lost you, at least I did.
Yeah, I just was saying, I think if we increase the landscape buffer, I personally would feel comfortable saying this can be a convenience store, but not a convenience store with gas pumps. I feel like that would really mitigate a lot of the issue with it could still be a nice addition to the neighborhood, but not, you know, I mean, it really is a sacred place. And I feel like we have an opportunity to preserve a few of these spaces in our community that feel, I mean, we all love to go to the cemetery, probably for family that we have, and you want it to feel quiet and peaceful. And we don't have a ton of spaces in our community that are quiet and peaceful. And if we can keep this as quiet and peaceful and sacred as possible, I think that's a gift to our community.
Well, Joe's right against that wall, so that's kind of, I mean, I'm going to feel it, but not to make it personal, but I agree. I'm kind of with Jimmy. I'm not feeling the.
Well, from what I can tell, based on what I've heard from John and from Sean, as it's been presented to us today, you know, we can approve it. We can approve it with modifications, or we can deny it. We could probably.
Mayor, you could also table it too, if you wanted to give staff direction to talk to the applicant and come back with something different.
That's right. So did you hear that? Approve. You could approve with modifications, you could deny it, or you could table it and instruct staff to meet with the applicant and try to work through. They could confer with them about some of our concerns and see what they'd like to do to perhaps bring back to us. What's your pleasure?
Just to chime in here, you know, as it's currently presented, I agree with the other council members that, you know, we do need to preserve the spaces here in St. George. That's part of our job. And as this is presented with that extra, even just with the extra spacing there that has future development right there against the wall, right there against the cemetery, I just don't think that works, especially just with that. So as presented, I don't think it works.
As presented, I would make a motion to deny it. So there's a lot of commercial that can go there. There is commercial around our cemetery. You've got, you know, the attorney's offices and all those new things there. A convenience store is just different. And so my motion is to deny this, but.
We have a motion.
And Mayor, okay, go ahead. We'll have to wait for the discussion. I didn't realize there was a motion, so.
Yeah, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Michelle and a second by Jimmy. Now, any discussion? I'm going to start first with Sean.
Mayor and John again can chime in, but as John pointed out, I think John was saying that the list of approved uses for that PD includes a convenience store. What he was saying was that it doesn't say gas pumps. So that's probably something that you should be looking at. So when the statement was made that not a convenience store there, John, correct me if I'm wrong, if I misunderstood you, but you were saying that the approved uses for the PD include a convenience store or not?
It did. It just doesn't mention gas pumps.
Okay, so I think technically someone could have put a convenience store there, but we could say no gas pumps. Just a clarification.
So you're saying we're legally bound to allow that?
Convenience
And so
store.
if we, okay,
But
Is that
not
correct?
the gas pumps.
right.
But we also have leeway to say the extra pads that are there and things, the setbacks, those are things
Absolutely.
we disagree with on this.
Absolutely.
See, and that's
Absolutely. I would not want the council to deny it based on it being a convenience store because that is allowed there.
let me ask a question. Is the applicant participating with us here on the meeting? I don't see anything in the chat box right now.
I'm gonna say then we need to table it and come back to it and do
Well,
some research.
and that's what I'm kind of wondering is if we are essentially bound because the list of uses is already includes a convenience store. I mean, can we deny it? Because I think the way Michelle took it, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, Michelle. I guess I am. But I think she took it as the way it's presented. She's saying no. And
Right.
so, I mean, there are a number of things we could say no to here. So I guess the question is it so much so that we can just deny it, or do we not have the right to deny it, Sean?
My no was in regards to gas pumps.
I don't want,
Councilman Hughes.
I don't want gas pumps there, but I'm not sure Maverick wants to go there without gas pumps.
But we can give them that option, right? I mean, if we just say no gas pumps and increased landscape strip, and we are willing to forward it like that, then that's on Maverick. They can decide what they want to do.
That's true.
Mine is based on, just how it's currently laid out doesn't exactly fit how we think it should sit there by the cemetery.
So
Do
I
you want
guess,
me to
And
revise?
let me be
my
clear,
motion
I
to
like
table it?
Maverick. Let me be clear, I like Maverick. I have a loyalty card. That's the only place I get gas, but just doesn't. Yeah.
so yes, Michelle, I think if you're so inclined, you could remake your motion, amend your motion, or we can go ahead and vote on the motion as was presented. I guess, Sean, unless it's not an appropriate motion.
Oh, no, I didn't think it was appropriate. The statement was made that the council member did not like a convenience store there. So I just wanted on the record to make it clear. But that the denial is not based on the use of a convenience store. It's the layout, it's the look of it, it's the gas pumps and the canopy.
Would you like
those things that you can articulate.
Would you like to re-articulate your motion, Michelle, and amend it?
I think her motion, Mayor, is fine. I just wanted to clarify with Councilmember Randall that it was not, that her motion was not based on the use of a convenience store. It was the overall project as presented and the gas pumps and the canopies and lighting, et cetera, whatever that may be.
Space that we don't know what is even going to go into that space that's still available.
Mayor, can I suggest that we just go ahead with Michelle's motion and then we share with Maverick, what our discussion has been tonight, that if they were to increase the landscape strip, to fill in that entire space and do a convenience store without gas pumps, that would be a different vote from our council.
And could I ask a clarifying question of staff? John, Ray, Dan, can you tell us who the developer's representative is? And if we could confirm that that individual or anyone from Maverick is participating in this meeting? And then could you also confirm that early revisions or drafts of this plan showed a car wash towards the cemetery side?
The applicant texted me earlier today and wanted to know if it was on the agenda. I told him yes. And I explained to him that we were doing Zoom, gave him the link. I'm not sure that he was able to get onto it. I think he's highly interested. The fact that you talked about a conceptual car wash did initially come up. At this time, that was pulled off, and that's why it's called just phase one, just the Maverick and the gas station only.
Okay, is staff anticipating that phase 2 will be a car wash?
There's a very good chance that their next step would be to pursue a car wash.
Is there a
That
reason
seems
why it's
even
not
more.
included on this plan?
It's not included in this plan, no.
Is there a reason why?
I think that the applicant is Maverick, and Maverick has nothing to do with the car wash, and so Maverick's intention was to get the Maverick approved, and they don't have anything to do with the car wash. And so the owner of the property is the one who's more interested in the car wash, and Maverick is not. This is Maverick's application.
Is a car wash an acceptable use under the zoning?
A car wash is not a listed use. Well, a manual car wash is on the use list. However, they were looking for an automated car wash, which is not on the use table.
Well, I don't want to get us sidetracked. That's not part of the proposal tonight, just for clarification, but I think it is pertinent to the application if they've at least represented that might be coming in a future phase.
Well, we know it is. I mean, that's the
Well,
reality.
We've
I mean, I
heard
guess
it.
we can't say we know. But
Yeah, and it is interesting. What I wouldn't want to have done to us is kind of feel like we're put in a box, because of approving this site plan and this building essentially, and then to say, well, gosh, nothing else works but a car wash, So I kind of am a little bothered by it not being presented together because of, I think, some natural limitations that are going to be there for utilizing that fairly narrow strip of property.
Well, I'm just going to keep my motion as is.
Okay. We have a motion and a second, as stated before. Any further discussion, council? Seeing none, those in favor, starting with Danielle, say aye.
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Jimmy?
Aye.
Motion carries. The applicant's request for zone change is denied. All right, let's go to number 6.
Dan, are you still there? Your mic is muted.
I'm getting there.
Okay. You hear me there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Item number 6 is to consider an ordinance for a zone change amendment to the Desert Color PD in order to develop phase 7 of Auburn Hills in the Desert Color development. So this is just the next phase of Desert Color. The applicant wanted me to be sure to make sure that it's clear that this is actually 7A. So there will be another phase of this phase. So phases on phases as we go through Desert Color. But this number 7, we'll call it 7A for tonight. This will include 16 units. You can see the location here in the on the map. On to the next slide, hopefully. Sorry. Okay, there we go. this is the site plan that's being proposed. You can see a total of 16 units being proposed. There will be 4 duplexes. Units 9 and 12, excuse me, will actually be single family. So they'll still be the same units, same design as the duplexes, but they will be just single units by themselves, those 2. And then you have 2 threeplexes, which are the mansions that have already been approved. Now, all of these units, I should mention, and I'll show you them here in a second, have already been approved by the city council. So these aren't new units or unit types that you haven't seen before. These are actually 2 types. They're the Muse and the Mansions that you've actually seen and approved in the original phases of Auburn Hills. It's on 2.55 acres, and yes, this is a look at the architecture of the buildings. You can see on the top are the townhomes, 2 variations of the townhomes. They've been designed so that each side, each of the 3 sides have an entrance, and then they're accessed from the alleyway behind. And then the bottom are the Muse, and so those will be the duplexes and those 2 single families that I pointed out earlier. They're not proposing any new civic space, but as a whole, the Auburn Hills civic space we're still at 8.5%, which is greater than the 5% that's required. They are meeting the guest parking requirement as well as their own parking with 2 car garages in each unit. And so that is the proposal for this phase. If you have any questions, I can answer those for you.
Council, any questions on these? Interesting products.
And they'll probably sell.
I think they will.
I'll make a motion if you're
Okay.
ready.
Yep.
For the approval of an ordinance for a zone change amendment to the Desert Color Plan development in order to develop phase 7 of Auburn Hills in the Desert Color development.
Second.
Motion by Michelle with a second by Jimmy. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, those in favor, starting this time with Jimmy, say aye.
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. I think we've got Wes coming now. Is that right?
Yes. So this request, this is the preliminary plat that just follows what Dan's zone change amendment. So it's a request to approve a preliminary plat for a 16-lot residential subdivision called, I guess now Auburn Hills Phase 7A. Again, like Dan said, it's located in the Desert Color development at the intersection of Carnelian Parkway and Lagoon Drive, and has a density of 6.27 dwelling units an acre.
Council, any questions for Wes? We obviously just saw this in the zone change amendment. If there are no questions, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve item 7 for the preliminary plat for a 16-lot residential subdivision.
I'll second.
Motion was made by Danielle, seconded by Greg. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Again, starting with Danielle this time, say aye.
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
And Jimmy?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Adam, should we go to the addendum?
Let's do it. Item number 2 on the agenda is a proclamation declaring a state of emergency due to the COVID-19 coronavirus. As you're all aware, these are obviously some challenging times that we're in and very uncertain. It's been made really clear to us over the past probably 2 weeks that we would ultimately need to declare a state of emergency or have the mayor do that to be eligible for reimbursement and also for certain federal funds that may be in line to come to the city in the event that we need them. And so we've weighed very carefully what this means, and we feel that it's probably the best step for the city of St. George. We know that others have already done it. We did not base our decision on anybody else having done it, except just looking at our own circumstances and wanting to be prepared and eligible for funds if they become available for recovery. And so staff would recommend approval of the proclamation.
Thank you, Adam. This isn't about any special powers or anything like that. This is really to enable us to receive funds if they're available. And while it may not be necessary, we have had some experience with this in the past with federal funds, and it was recommended by some of our staff, especially Deanna, that we do this just to make sure. Questions or comments, council?
Is there any downsides to this?
I can't think of any, and Adam's shaking his head.
No, we don't believe there are. It's really smart, and I don't know. I'm looking at our video here, and I'm trying to think how many would have been around for our floods, several years back, and I'm quite certain we did this at that time as well.
I believe we did. And I don't know if technically this requires a vote, but I would appreciate having a motion, a second, and a vote on this anyway, if you're so inclined, council.
Mayor, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve this emergency declaration. And just with this, just saying this, this is unprecedented times. I was just laying awake last night thinking about the gravity of really where we are. I mean, it's kind of, if you really think about it, it can be a little bit overwhelming, but I've been so pleased and proud of how the citizens of our community and really the country have just kind of hunkered down and said, hey, we're going to make it through this, and have been so far very well behaved, and I hope that continues. And it really is a crazy, crazy time, and something that when you really think about it, it's amazing how everything has come to such a halt. And these things are going to be necessary as we move forward. And I'm glad for you and Adam, and for all you've been working hard, and really all the staff to get us to where we are. And I'm so ready to get after it as soon as we can and get back to as normal as we can. So
I'll second that. You've done a great job.
And you're seconding the motion too, Brian?
I said, I'll second that, yes.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the comments from both of you, Jimmy, especially, thank you. As I know you are all keenly aware and that you feel the same angst and concern for our community, for the individuals, for the businesses, and we'll talk about that more in just a minute. And I appreciate that. I appreciate every council member has said, what can I do to help? And there will be things that we need to do. So thank you. And Adam's leadership as the city manager, council, you already know this, but he's an incredible leader. And these daily meetings that we have with our executive staff, you would be proud. You'd be proud of Adam. You'd be proud of all of our department heads and those that are working with them for the serious manner that they're taking this, and genuinely trying to do the best that they can for the city and the citizens of St. George. So I really applaud all the efforts. And I really do want to make sure that we're kind of locked arm in arm with each other and with our county officials and our other surrounding city officials and the state. And so far, kind of to Jimmy's point, I think we've done that really well. Any other comments that any of you would like to make before I ask for a vote on this?
I appreciate the emails that Adam sends out every day to let citywide know what's going on within our organization, and try to be upbeat and positive and let everyone know we will get through this, because we will. We just wish we had a crystal ball that could say when. So thanks for those.
Thank you. Danielle?
I'm just holding the economic and health recovery plan from the governor, and I love the little headliner for his intro note. He says, "Times like these bring out the best in people. This is a time for Utah to shine." And I think that's what Jimmy said and meant, and I agreed with everything that he just said. Yeah, I agree with Michelle. I am really just impressed and overwhelmed by everything you guys have been doing. I feel a little helpless at home. I just keep thinking, I wish there was more I could do. But then further down in his message, it says, if we follow public health guidelines, we have a chance to get on the path to recovery more quickly. If we don't, we face a longer and more painful recovery. Rigorously following public health measures while staying as economically engaged as possible. So I think we're doing the right thing, and hopefully that means that we'll economically recover as rapidly as possible. So thanks for your leadership in that.
Thank you.
Greg,
Greg?
I would just quickly say, I appreciate the kind words. If somehow we came out of this thing down the road in a worse situation or position than we are now, that would be squarely on my shoulders, and I would own that 100%. Fortunately, I'm pretty optimistic because of the team that we have, our employees. They are working incredibly hard. I know that you know that, and it's great to be part of this team. I think that we will absolutely come out better as a community when this is over.
Agreed. Thank you, Adam. And no way we're going to give you all the blame or all the credit, but Greg, any
Sure.
comments?
Yeah, of course. So 2 comments. First, I'd just like to echo what the other council members have said, and that is, the city of St. George is doing a very good job with this. You can see that there's a lot of love put into this. There's a lot of thought put into things, and I feel like we're just really well managed. We're in unprecedented times. I've never in my life ever driven around in March in city in St. George and driven down like there's nobody in town. It's crazy. So to declare a state of emergency, I think, is very prudent for us, and we're in an unprecedented time, and this is an emergency for our economy, and so I'm definitely for this, and again, thank you for everything that everybody's doing.
Thank you. With that, I'm going to ask for a vote, whether it's needed or not. I appreciate the motion and the second by Jimmy and the second by Brian. All in favor, starting with Jimmy, say aye.
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Motion carries. I'll sign that proclamation and it'll be official. Adam? The last, I believe, thing.
Yes, we've got one more, and we're going to have Shirlane present this to us. She's just turned on her video. So Shirlane, you're up.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. So item 3 on the addendum is to consider the approval of a $250,000 contribution from the city's Economic Development Fund to the Greater Together Small Business Resilience Fund for immediate availability to St. George businesses impacted by COVID-19. So this is a brand new fund. We've been working with Washington County, with Santa Clara, Washington City, and several private donors to pull funding together and create an unprecedented fund actually in our community to support our local businesses. The purpose is to help small businesses stay in operation until they can obtain small business loans or state and federal assistance. The Greater Together Small Business Resilience Fund will provide 0% interest loans up to $20,000 to companies with fewer than 50 employees. And I'll answer any questions that you have.
So Shirlane is very succinct, but she has been working like night and day on this for, I don't know what it's been now, a week and a half. To someone's point earlier, it feels like it's been like a month or two, but this has happened very quickly. Shirlane's done an incredible job. And again, this is a thing of teamwork with the county. And I'm thrilled to see Washington City and Santa Clara City, involved with this, as well as Charlene talked about some private businesses and probably some private individuals in time. But we can't officially say this yet because like this tonight, other city councils have to formally approve their amounts. But we're talking about $1 million now, folks, just with what we have committed, if not approved yet by city councils, but $1 million. Salt Lake City approved a very similar fund about a week ago for $1 million. I'm really pleased. Sorry, I'm kind of a wreck tonight, but I'm really pleased with our partners in this, with the chamber and the county in particular, but Washington City, who's really, I think, stepping up in a big way as well, and Santa Clara, who's giving all they have in their economic development fund. I just think it's really cool. I've had a chance to make a few phone calls to some banks and credit unions to be a part of this, to allow their members and their customers to contribute if they're so inclined. I'm really pleased with it. I know we've talked, all of us independent or individually, about this. You've seen at least some draft information. The website is ready. The announcement is ready. A video and a press release have actually gone out in hopes that we would all approve this tonight and some next week. But any questions or comments that you'd like to make before we ask for a motion on this? Danielle?
Yeah, Charlene, thank you. This is awesome. I'm just curious, is there a clause that they maintain workforce if they get loans?
Yeah, so the goal is to keep your doors open and maintain your personnel. And we haven't put it out publicly yet, but we're discussing the criteria for a forgiveness clause as well. And so the details on that, we had to move so fast to just get it going, that we still have a few details to work out on that. But yes, the whole goal is to maintain your workforce. And the things that would be covered under the fund are, let me tell you really quick. So they would be payroll, rent and or utility payments, inventory, and then an upgrade in digital tools. So let's say they needed something to be able to accommodate online orders and delivery or something like that. So the goal is for them to ask for what they need to keep their doors open. So many won't be asking for a full 20,000. And we're trying to keep it flexible so that we can really meet the needs of a variety of different businesses. And so there is the whole goal is to keep people employed.
That's awesome. Did you mention a timeline for payback?
Yeah, so we just declared the state of emergency. And right now the timeline, it's a 3 to 5 year term. So up to 5 years, depending on the situation. And the payback would not start for 90 days once the emergency declaration expires. So we give them a chance to kind of get back up on their feet before they even start paying back the loan. And it would be administered through the Chamber of Commerce, the loan itself and not the process.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you.
Welcome.
What I love about this is we're doing it as a community for our community and not just sitting back and saying, well, let's just rely on the feds. They'll come out with $2.2 trillion. Danielle and I were talking about that yesterday. We can't even wrap our head around that kind of money. And but we're trying to take care of our own the best we can. Yes, we're going to have to rely on the feds to come in too, but I'm really happy that that Charlene has taken this bull by the horns in such a short amount of time, and we have the money there and it's going to be spent wisely. So to help our local businesses, that's what we want to do. Today, I'm like Greg, today's the first day I actually left my house and went somewhere other than to get nose swabbed. But and that was just drive-through. But the streets, the traffic is nothing. But what I was impressed with was so many people at drive-through restaurants still, and I went to pick up a to-go order for lunch. So people trying to do their part to keep some of these businesses that have been so affected in business.
Yeah. Thank you.
I was going to say that, the citizens of this community are awesome too. They're doing their part, trying to keep these businesses open. You know, I've got a chance to see some of these businesses, how they're taking care of the customers, trying to keep them safe. And the citizens deserve to keep these people in business and be able to use them when this is all over again as well. So this will be a great push to keep things going when this is all done and over with. And Shirlene, you did a great job. Thank you.
Thanks. So I do want to say that I got to do the work on this, and it's been so rewarding. And I really think we all also need to thank the mayor, because his leadership and vision for the fact that this could be something we do in our community and pulling together our leaders has been really the glue that made it all really happen. And we're really, really lucky to have a community like we do and to have the leadership we do. And thanks to all of you for being so supportive. It means a lot. And I think our community, you know, this short-term bridge funding is so important, because those federal and state dollars are not going to be available for a while. And if we can get them some funding quickly, we have a super short turnaround time, like less than a week to try to start getting these companies, about a week to try to get them funded. And so that's, you know, the real work's just beginning, but that's the whole point, is we want to get it out to them quickly. So thanks for being so supportive through this kind of hurricane of a process. And thank you, Mayor.
Don't mention hurricane.
Please.
Anyway.
It's really cool because we had a question about this and we were already on it. You know, if you guys noticed that email, but we had that, and the mayor was already to give an answer because he was already on this. And, you know, I hate to say exciting, but there's some exciting stuff that can happen with this too in the future as we move forward with with this business help fund in perpetuity. It could turn into something really good as businesses succeed and maybe give back, pay back a little more maybe, and donate because it helped them. And I mean, there's just some exciting stuff I think can happen, not looking too far into the future, but it can be exciting.
Well said, Jimmy. And we do hope that after we deal with this initial crisis, that we could have this become a perpetual resiliency fund for small businesses, and that we'll come back to you and say now for the future how we might use it. And so we are really considering this a donation, that we won't be getting this back, but not that the fund won't be getting it back. We hope this can be perpetuated, as Jimmy just said, and that we can use it for, you know, future opportunities to help businesses in one way or another. And council, there is, I believe, going to be an opportunity for one or perhaps more of you to help in this regard, because there will be a need to review in a fairly quick order some of these applications, fully online applications, mind you. The website, if it's not done, it's almost done. It's incredible at the turnaround that's happened, but I may be talking with one or two of you at least to kind of coordinate with Shirlene and with this board that will be created. We're entitled to representation on the board that makes these decisions. So appreciate it. And if there are no other comments, I'd appreciate a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that was a motion by Jimmy and a second by Brian, and close seconds by several others. So any further discussion? All in favor, starting with Jimmy, say aye.
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
So nice to have unanimous motions on things like this that help bring us together as a community. Shirlene, thank you. Adam, thank you for your help in this as well, and everyone else. It's nice when you have a rainy day fund. In this case, it's our economic development fund that was really generated, I think mostly, it would be fair to say, by sales tax. We are reinvesting in those that really produced it. And so I feel comfortable with this. I appreciate that you all do as well. Motion carries unanimously.
And just, Mayor, while we're talking about Shirlene, this is not the only thing she's been doing.
No.
She's been working very hard with the LHCC and with the State Homeless Coordinating Council as we're, as basically a lot of the funding, especially our private funding, has been yanked out from under us at Switch Point and many other homeless shelters. I mean, she's been, I don't know how she's doing it all, but, and I'm thinking in a future meeting, maybe next meeting, we're going to talk a little bit about a little bit of help maybe for Switch Point too. And I'm okay to wait till then, but I mean, really, Shirlane has been all over it. So I thank her for that too.
I've talked to Jimmy, and Jimmy and I approached the county commission, who've decided to write a check to Switch Point for $50,000 to help in this emergency situation. I would suggest, and Jimmy and I would suggest that we match that and that we contribute 50,000. We won't make a motion tonight because we need to prep Deanna for that and figure out which fund to take that from. But I would like to, council, if you're okay with this, I'd like to be able to have Jimmy tell Carol that we intend to do this and that he could tell her that tonight. Would you be okay with that?
Yes.
Yep.
I would. Just to add into this, we are always saying as the city of St. George that we're a great place to do business, to work, well, to live, to work, and to play. And our staff and Shirlane do an amazing job, Mayor do an amazing job. We're making it. So we're doing everything that we can to live up to what we promise when we sell ourselves as a city. So good job, everyone. This is great.
I just want to say one quick thing that, I spent a lot of years in the military with some really great leadership, and what we have here is phenomenal. The staff that Adam has with him and Adam's leadership, and then with Mayor and our team here, I couldn't ask for anything better to come to, because I've been to some good places with some good people, and I wouldn't rather be in this war with anybody but you guys. So thank you.
Well said, Brian, and that's a good likeness. There's nothing like working in the trenches with people to solidify a team and to realize what a great team you have. So thank you to everybody who's involved with this, all of you, especially for your patience and your support, as this has been such a moving target over these last few weeks. Hard to believe how fast this has happened, and a lot has been done. So thank you very much. There might be a couple of, Adam, I don't think we have anything else other than reports. Is that right? I don't have, Jimmy, I'll promise I'll get to that appointment we need to make for the Housing Authority. No I'll get that and we'll do it next week. No problem. And we have others we need to do too. We'll try to get back to normal with some of those things. But I know there are a few reports. Let's start with Greg, because I know he's got one.
Sure. Okay. So I sit on the board for the Red Cliffs Desert Reserve. And right now we're working on the Habitat Conservation Plan, renewing that. So we had a board meeting this week, and there was a couple points to pull away from that. The first one is there's a new section that we're presenting to put into the Red Cliff Desert Reserve. It's called Section 6, and it sits southwest of the Tonnequint area. So to obtain that land, we needed to get a grant from the Fish and Wildlife Bureau. And it was presented in this board meeting that we have been awarded that grant. And through that grant, it was a $12 million grant. And through that, we've been able to acquire that full section. So Section 6 is now available for us. So that was a big thing, and it was great news. So they're currently working on the draft for the Habitat Conservation Plan. It's been going back and forth with comments. The next and final version of that draft is due to come out on June 12th. And at that time, it'll be put up for public opinion. And so that's what we're waiting for on that time. So that's the report on the board meeting. Mayor, is there anything you want to add on this report?
Let me just ask you, Greg, is it about 6,600 acres? Is it for that whole piece there that is partially SITLA, partially BLM?
Mm-hmm. This grant made it so that they could provide or purchase. There was a large section that was privately owned, And so they could purchase that. And now that that's moved forward, then all the other pieces, Sitla has some, the BLM has some, and now that all those things are coming together, that whole section can be purchased. So it's set up. And they said that that purchase can be done under a year. So everything can be finalized within 12 months.
Thank you for the report. Any questions on that, council?
Well, I'll just say for outdoor recreation, this is a huge announcement. Huge. And, you know, it's just totally awesome. So thanks, Greg.
Well, and that's an important piece because this is supposed to have more access, a little bit more access to outdoor recreation, if I understand it right, even if it's put into the NCA Desert Tortoise Reserve. Is that my understanding correct, Sean and Adam? I think you've been a part of that. Yeah, so not that, and there's limited motorized access, I think, through that extension of Navajo Drive, but otherwise it's very limited. But otherwise, lots of bicycle and hiking, climbing, kinds of things would be, as I understand it, allowed.
From the board meeting, that's what it's been the discussion. They want to preserve the trails, now keep people on the trails, but preserve the biking trails, preserve everything that's there. So it's a really
Greg, at one time there had been a conversation or questions about camping. Has that come up in any of your meetings recently?
So the meeting shows the campsites that are currently out there, but it wasn't discussed, and I can find out if they want to preserve those or not, but it showed everywhere that there is one. So they've documented everywhere that there is one, so they know where they are.
I know that Adam and I were talking about this at one time. I know there was one in particular that we felt like ought to remain because otherwise we'd really hear about it. And it's kind of very near Tonnequint. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it'd be nice we maybe ought to try to understand that better before we go, too far forward. I think it's pretty much done. But it'd be nice for all of us to understand it.
Sure, I'll reach out and find out.
Okay. Michelle, do you have any reports?
Nope, everybody's been self-isolating.
Yeah. Danielle?
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same as Michelle, except for I will report that the Dove Center, they are still working, in hyperdrive, doing what they do best for our community. Such a blessing to have them, but also implementing, safety and sanitation. So that's been challenging for them, but they've really risen to that task. And I just want to mention what a blessing they are to our community. So.
Thank you. Brian, any reports from committees or meetings?
Nope, they canceled mine.
Yeah, most of them kind of have been. Jimmy, anything?
No, I didn't. I think did you go to DTech? It was on video and I didn't make it. I couldn't figure out how to turn the computer on.
I'm glad you figured it out tonight.
They took the fun out of it. You can't go and have lunch. So what's the, why go?
I know, exactly.
No, I was unable to attend that day. So unless you won't have something to report on that.
There wasn't too much. In fact, it was probably the shortest meeting we've had, Jimmy. So I guess you missed the wrong one.
Was there a report on the Transportation Expo or anything, or?
Yes, very briefly.
Okay.
They actually reported that more, I think, even the last one. So
yeah,
just kind of a brief synopsis. They did ask Cameron and I to talk about our Suntran, no fare for the next 3 months. Interesting timing on that. On the one hand,
I'll bet they're packed, right?
So anyway, more news at 10 on that, but yeah, it was a quick meeting. So UDOT has their annual commissioners meeting that was supposed to have been in, I think, Santa Clara tomorrow, and they, because of all this, have made it a virtual meeting. So normally they'd be down here and doing a mobile tour today, and they didn't do that because of the COVID-19. So nothing else for me to report either. Adam, do you have any reports or Sean?
I don't.
Greg, I didn't ask you. Did you have anything else from any other committees, or is that it?
I guess the other one I could report on is the Dinosaur Museum. So
Okay.
they have closed their doors right now, and they're looking at ways that they can open them up. We'll have a board meeting this upcoming week where we're going to discuss what we're going to do there.
Okay, good. Thank you. I might just say a couple of things. There was a League of Cities meeting with the Lieutenant Governor, Teresa Foxley from the Economic Development Corporation of Utah, and the state epidemiologist. Her name's Dr. Angela Dunn. Regarding the whole COVID-19 thing, there are some good things going on. Finally, the testing, the capacity now, they're able to test 2,600 a day. That's way up. They'll probably next week be able to test 4,500 a day, process 4,500 tests a day. The other good news is that those that are testing, there's only 5% that are being tested that are testing positive. And that's down. That's actually coming down a little. That's a good thing. In some places, it's much higher than that. In fact, this is public information. In Summit County, 30% of those tested are testing positive. So that's why I think they went, to that measure of sheltering at home. So it'll be interesting. I think what we'll end up seeing tomorrow at 9 a.m., I believe the governor is doing a press event, and I think you'll see him tout the plan that we were talking about, that Danielle was talking about earlier. I think you'll also see him announce something along the lines of maybe a template, boilerplate template order that counties through their health departments could decide to implement with state support, kind of automatic support that standardizes what you would do so that counties are on the same sheet of music if they decide to implement the order. I think you'll see that happen in Salt Lake County is my guess in the next day or two. You'll see some stuff in the press that already the mayor of Salt Lake is kind of anxious to have the state or the county do something. But the other good news is in terms of the increase in cases testing positive, overall it's 14%. That's good because, again, Summit was 30%. So it's really, in terms of new cases per day, that's not as bad as what other places are. So the news isn't all bad. There is some good news, and I don't know that we've hit by any means the peak yet. Locally, we have 7 cases. I believe one of those is in Iron County. The others are here. 3 of those are in the hospital. That's about all I can say on that. But others, we'll just kind of wait and see. But right now, the hospital is doing fine and prepared for more if they need it. I think our effort still does need to be, and I heard that Dr. Blodgett has kind of increased his message regarding social distancing. I think that is going to be the key is continuing that. You noticed, council, that we're closing the All Abilities Park as of tonight. I think we had to do that. There's just too many opportunities for grabbing onto things and sharing germs. We'll see what happens. Adam and I may come back to you with other thoughts for potential other closures or statements we may need to make. But we're going to try to take a measured approach unless we're told to do otherwise by the scientists, by the doctors. But we'll see what happens with the next 3 weeks, spring breaks. We may need to send some kind of a message. And we haven't quite decided how to do that. But we'll have some discussion with you about that. Some of that will depend on what Salt Lake does. If we were to have, for example, 10 or 20,000 people show up the next 3 weekends in a row, is that a good thing? In St. George?
What are they going to do?
Exactly. So Adam, I don't want to be doing all the talking. If you have any thoughts on that, feel free to jump in.
No, nothing else.
Well,
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I was totally doing something else.
He didn't hear the question.
I know what he was doing.
so yeah, I'm just talking about any messages we may need to send to those that might come to visit our city, Adam. And we'll talk with the council, with each of you, if there's something we think we want to do. But I just, I don't know, if I were up north in the snow, I might be thinking, let's come to St. George for spring break, as you know, we always do. And, you know, Danielle and I were talking about this earlier today. That might be okay if they came here and sheltered in place at their second home, or, but they don't, right? First thing they'll do is what? Go to the store.
Go look for toilet paper.
Maybe they'll bring their own. But anyway, we're gonna think about that a little bit. And if there are any messages we need to send, we'll figure out how to do it. But, you know, I don't want to underreact. I don't want to overreact. Right now, things are looking better than maybe some thought they would be. That tells me that some of the things we're doing are working. I think in a matter of 3 or 4 weeks, we're going to be 85 degrees, and that's going to help us. So I think the key is the next 3 weeks. So.
Well, and that's what, as you're talking to the mayor or to the governor, mayor, and lieutenant governor, and I told you this, that's what I liked about what he did when he came out and said, here's a plan. Here's a realistic timeline so that people don't have to go, this is never ending. Yeah. That's where I start to get panicky, is when I feel like it's never ending. But when we're saying, hey, here's what we were trying to get to. And I think as a city, we can do that same thing. Is here's where we're trying to get to, and here's our timeline. You know, all things can always go wrong, but as long as everything goes like we're seeing it go, here's where we're headed, and we're going to be out of this by this time. Hey, everybody knows that could maybe be not happen, but let's be optimistic, and let's do everything we can to get to that point, so that people have something to look forward to. And so when you talk to them, let them know we love that, and that's something that I support. And I think a lot of people support that aggressive, let's get back to work.
Yeah. Well, unless anyone wants to talk more, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn, because I don't think we need a closed session, and I'm not sure how we do it. So Adam, Sean, we good to adjourn?
I think Sean left.
Sean's there.
He's already adjourned.
Ready for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Michelle, second by
Brian.
Yeah. Any discussion? All in favor, starting with Danielle? Aye. Say aye.
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Jimmy?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you all. Thanks for doing this new adventure by Zoom. We're adjourned.
So great to see everybody's face.
It really is.
And where are you, Brian? You've got the best setup.
You do.
In my office at my house.
Seriously?
Oval office.
Nice.
That's what exactly.
My I love me wall.
Listen,
I love me wall.
Well, listen, good night, and go order something. Go order some takeout.
No kidding.
Got it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.